Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Bryndee Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
I mean, our whole business plan and model is based around creating experiences. In fact, our slogan is "Don't stay, experience."
Mm.
So we are all about creating a all-inclusive memory building experience that guests will get to take with them. So of course, it's the design of the house, but we also shoot for really quick, great customer service and responses. Like we do a lot of interactive things on our Instagram and social media, like across the board from start to finish. We want all of our guests to feel like they are well taken care of and having a luxurious, fun experience whenever they encounter Loma Homes.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning back into this week's episode of the podcast. There's a lot coming out. There's so much happening in the world of hospitality. So I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in and just being supporters of the show. If you could, like, subscribe, leave a review on any platform that you listen to. Please also check out the social media pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Find the podcast. I'll link it in the show notes as well. Show some love and support. Share your favorite episode. Let me know if you have anything specific you want to hear or a guest that you think should be on the show as well. I definitely encourage all recommendations. And then, of course, check out the Slick Talk community blog. There's a lot of cool industry pros that are posting awesome articles. And then, of course, you can see more coming out on the show on the website, slicktalkthepodcast.com. You'll find out a lot more about a couple of upcoming speaking engagements that I have regarding the Book Direct show, as well as some exciting other things. So go ahead and stay tuned. Back to the episode.
He's kind of like the Joe Rogan of the hospitality industry right now.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Again, I'm your host, Will Slickers, and today I have a pretty unique opportunity to have Bryndee from Loma Homes out in Destin, Florida. And for a lot of people that have been following the journey of the podcast and are constant listeners would have known that a few months ago, pre-COVID-19, I was in Florida on a little vacation. But then I also had the opportunity to interview Erica Muller from Vrolio, and we actually filmed and recorded the podcast on site at one of the Loma Homes property, which a lot of people probably know. And it's the Star Wars house. It's very popular. I've seen it all the way from Washington prior to the podcast. And so I've known of it. And so to be able to be there and do an episode was pretty unique. But today I'm actually getting to interview Bryndee, who is also one of the owners of Loma Homes and runs the 12 Par 6 house. So I'm very excited. Welcome to the show, Bryndee. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing great.
So who are you? What's your background? How did you come about to getting to, the journey that you're on today?
Yeah, so interesting enough, I started in corporate America and I began my career in healthcare management and project management with software and hospitals. So I loved my job. It was a lot of fun. I am passionate about like the healthcare industry and whatnot as well. But I had to travel 50% of the time, and it was a pretty grueling work schedule, whether I was in town or out of town. So I always knew that once I had a family and once I had a family and everything, I would want to have more flexibility of lifestyle. So it happened to be that my husband and I decided to buy our first house. We didn't have kids yet, so we thought, why not buy a duplex? We live in one side, rent out the other, like get to live there for free.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of started the whole snowball. So it started with a duplex, and we thought we could do some more rental properties. So we did more long-term rentals with typical renters. Then once we had our children, I quit my other job and started managing the rental properties and also flipping houses. And then from there, it kind of turned into Airbnbs and what is now extreme vacation rentals
Mhm.
with Loma Homes. So it wasn't part of the plan. It kind of just naturally, one step at a time, brought us here. But we love traveling, we love real estate, and this is really a good merge of both of those passions of ours. And it's been really fun to get into the vacation rental side of things.
I agree. And I love that you guys call them extreme, rental homes. And I think it's a nice way to segue into what is now what you guys call the 12 Parsecs house, or the Star Wars house. What was the inspiration from that? And how did you guys, I guess I want to know the aha moment where like, yeah, we should create this house, but completely Star Wars themed. Because I've been in it and the attention to detail was awesome. And my brother-in-law, who is a Star Wars geek, was just fanning out. Like he was just like, holy cow, this is so cool. And so, of course, it being like 20 minutes from Orlando and Disney World there, and they have the Galaxy's Edge and all that stuff. I really want to know, what was the inspiring moment to get that going? And I also want to hear a little bit about the journey of transforming that property into that extreme B&B.
Yeah, thanks. I am our design and construction manager, so the fact that you love it and the details are all great is an ultimate compliment. I love hearing that I did something right on the house. So, um, yeah, funny enough, there's another property before 12 Parsecs. That's where our journey started. So I'm going to take a step back further. Loma Homes is comprised of three partners: my husband Kyle, who does acquisitions and marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and then me, Bryndee, who does the construction and designs, and then we've got Jeff, who does our long-term guest management and customer experience and all of that stuff. So funny enough, we had just moved to Utah. Kyle had quit his full-time job, so we were now doing full-time real estate, and we could live anywhere we wanted because
Yeah.
we had properties across 7 different states.
Oh,
So it
wow.
didn't really matter.
Okay.
So Kyle's family's from Utah. We moved here, and we were deciding where to live. So we rented Jeff's basement. So he was our landlord. Ironically, he lived above us, and he knew what we did because we flip houses remotely. We traveled a lot while we were flipping, brought our kids along. Kind of a crazy lifestyle, but he approached us and said he wanted to do vacation rentals, and he did all this research because he's a very data-driven guy.
Yeah.
And he did this research and found that the best return on investments at that time was in Joshua Tree, California. And he says, I want to do an Airbnb there, but I have never really done anything with vacation rentals or real estate or flipping houses or anything. So will you guys build one for me? We at the time had never heard of Joshua Tree, which ironically now seems naive. We had never heard of it, and we're like, sure. I don't know where it is, but within 2 weeks we drove out there. We went and just started exploring the market and made it happen. And what we thought was just going to be a normal house flip turned into this extreme vacation rental because we got to know the culture of Joshua Tree, and it's just this fun bohemian like music festival vibe, and we wanted to play up on that. So the more we got to know people, the more we're like, we need to like get local artists out here, and we need to have like a larger space. So we bought a dome house that was on a few acres. Then we added some trailers and painted them, and then added like these hammocks and pool and fire pit. And it was like this hippie wonderland, which was awesome. So that went really well. And then we're like, we want to do another one. So we did more research on different markets and came across Orlando. And so once again, it was one step at a time. We decided we want Orlando. We did a lot of research on what types of properties are most profitable in Orlando. And it came to be that, of course, anything within like 15 or 20 minutes of Disney does well. And the larger the property, the better. And if you have a theme or something that stands out, then you kill it.
Yeah.
So we ended up just brainstorming theme ideas, and it was really good timing for doing a Star Wars themed house because Galaxy's Edge, the theme park, was open at that same time.
Oh,
So
awesome.
Disney is doing all this marketing for Star Wars fans, and so we're like, this would be a really fun house. There's a dedicated fan base. It's a cool storyline. That's how it came to be. It wasn't necessarily that, as much as I hate to say it, Jeff is a Star Wars fan, and I'd watched the movies, whatever, but it wasn't like we grew up dreaming about making a house about Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was a good opportunity at the right time.
Yeah. So a group of the right people making the right decision at the right time sounds like a pretty pretty, I don't know, I feel like those opportunities happen, but not often. So I think it's cool that you guys were able to recognize that. Um, but it's kind of on the same question, but a little off. With other vacation rentals surrounding that property itself, um, what have you guys seen be the difference in occupancy and revenue based off of like a basic, just a comfortable, cozy house versus your extreme B&B where it's totally themed out? All the nerds, whether they're Star Wars nerds or not, like I know for sure there's people in my family or friend group that are not Star Wars fans, so to say. They're not like geeks, but if they had the opportunity to stay there versus a basic house, they would stay there because the experience and the overall just uniqueness of it, I think is you have the ability to go home and be like, yeah, we stayed at the Star Wars house, no big deal. You guys suck. We're cool. Type bragging rights. So what have you guys seen, occupancy and revenue wise from the extreme to the overall
Yeah.
basic comfort?
So overall, we see about double the revenue of our neighbors, which have the same similar houses that are just normal. Um, the occupancy rates can be pretty solid because there's just so much tourism in Orlando. The main thing for us is raising our nightly rates.
Mm.
So that's where we get our biggest profit, is that because we have a higher quality, more unique experience, we can charge more each night. So we get about double the other revenue once it gets up and going. The first few months, of course, are getting the word out there and gaining the popularity. But our goal on all the extreme vacation rentals is about double. That being said, the cost to build them is also significantly more. So there is some correlation to that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm pretty sure you're also putting a lot more into the investment in the initial beginning, especially after it takes a while for bookings to come in, and like you said, the word to be spread and all that good stuff. Um, with that, kind of leading into your newest project, your newest launch, so you said 2 in the beginning. You've been getting 2 houses launched, and I looked at the website last night, and I saw the beach house, and I didn't know that was new, but I was so focused on Wizard's Way. I'm now curious to hear, with the much success of the Star Wars house, let's talk about Wizard's Way, and then of course now this other property, with it being a success, and seeing the occupancy and able to charge almost double the amount than most competition out there. What made you go with Wizards? Let's start with that one. Let's go with Harry Potter theme, and then also I'm curious to know, because Wizards Way is in the same neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, it's about like 5 houses away from our Star Wars themed house, 12 parsecs. So you can rent both of them at the same time, which is really awesome too.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about like the mindset and the thinking behind that strategy, because I want to see if maybe were there other opportunities to create this house, but not in Destin, but maybe somewhere else, or is this kind of like when you guys thought of this idea, you're like, we got to do it close by?
Yeah, so we knew that obviously we want to stick in the Orlando area because they have Disney World and Universal Studios. And we looked at different neighborhoods, and the main thing came down to that we had already had guests asking when they were booking 12 parsecs if we had another property, because they had more than 30 guests. So 12
Okay.
parsecs does sleep up to 30, but that being said, you'll want some of those people to be kids because of the fact that it's a lot, there's like bunk beds and stuff getting to 30. So if you have a really large group, you kind of need 2 houses. So it made a lot of sense to stay in the same neighborhood and be able to offer nesting bookings. So you can book them separately, you can book them together. If you book together, now you have a 17-bedroom house, which provides a lot of opportunities for guests. And then also just that we can now have an additional listing on Airbnb and our website and VRBO or whatever for people who are looking for larger groups. So that was the main thing. And then the other one is that just like efficiency wise, we bought the exact same floor plan. It's just a mirror image.
Okay.
So we already were familiar with like all the little details, and construction made it a lot more simple because we've had to deal with it once before. And when you're building these custom items and murals, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So it made it a little bit easier just using the same house.
That makes total sense. So now hearing it, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. So now just kind of off the whole, rail of questions that we can go into, do you have any fun or cool stories from your guests or just the overall experience of getting these houses up and running? And then, of course, let's dive in after that to the beach property that I did not fully know about until now.
That's okay. Let's be honest. Wizards Way and stuff is the most exciting. Beach houses are awesome and they're practical, but the really extreme vacation rentals are honestly part of our strategy. Is that is marketing to help get all of our properties doing well, but they're also a lot of fun to build.
Yeah.
So with Wizards Way, I think across the board, something interesting in the background that people don't know is we're from Utah. Our construction crew actually specializes in haunted houses and in like theme parks and very specialty construction. You can't just call up like your general contractor and say, hey, can you build me a spaceship? Or can you build a train that has fog machine and also fit the bed inside of it?
Yeah.
Like it's a whole different world out there. So the first step when we were making a Star Wars house was finding someone who could build what these like crazy ideas I had in my head. And that just took a lot of Googling and interviewing. And we talked to probably 20 companies across the US and then got proposals from about 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And then narrowed it down to one company that's based out of South Carolina called Little Spider Creations. And that's who we worked with on the Star Wars themed house, 12 Parsecs. And then we also had them again work with the Harry Potter house, Wizards Way. And they come in from South Carolina. They're around Myrtle Beach area. Okay. And they build most of it inside of a warehouse, and then they bring it and kind of assemble it in the house. So just that process and behind the scenes is really cool, which you can kind of see some of that behind the scenes on our Facebook or Instagram. Mm-hmm. But one of the best parts of the process is just like seeing this come to life. And my husband and I and our two kids who are 5 and 2 go with us. And for a month, we're on site while they're doing all the mural work, while they're doing all the building, and we're doing the staging. So we do all the furniture and the decorations and all the normal stuff. But it's actually really funny to see like my kids and their reactions to it. They're kind of like, we get a test market right on site during the whole phase. Like, oh, well, that's not very childproof. We better fix that. Or this one is actually a really good one that the kids love. They press the button over and over, make the train horn go. It's kind of notorious that I'm a little bit picky with my contractors and probably with everything else in my life, my husband would say. But the attention to detail, like in order to achieve the extreme vacation rental and the guest experience we want, you have to have a high attention to detail. Like everything has to be right. You want to have things very accurate to the movie series, and we want very high quality. So it's kind of notorious that even sometimes the contractors like hold their breath when I walk in because there's something I want fixed or something better. And then on top of that, I've got my 5-year-old checking in every couple hours. Is the train done? Is the train done? Do you have the whistle up? Do you have the fog machine up? So it's kind of funny just the dynamics of not only having to have me manage, but also having my 5-year-old as my little assistant. But it's a really fun experience just seeing it all come to life.
No, that's super cool.
So, and then interestingly, one other funny story actually is that when we got back from the Star Wars house, we walked through the doors like 10:30 at night, just got back from our flight. And my 2-year-old just asked, like, where are you? Where are we? And we said, we're back home. And he started bawling. He said, no, I want to live at the Star Wars house. I don't want to be here. We're like, we thought he'd be excited to come home after a month, but no, like he thought he was living in that house. So, and that's the experience we want to provide for our guests too, that their kids and even the adults just love it. And it's like a once in a lifetime memory that they get to keep forever.
No, and I think this is a good segue into the next question, but also my brother-in-law, who's like, he's a child at heart. Like he literally, him and my sister and my nieces and nephew moved their whole life from Washington to be in Florida and just have that like Disney experience. And he was just geeking out the whole time when he was at the Star Wars house. It was like watching a kid in a candy shop, just like, oh my gosh, like it's just super cool. So I think that next, topic of experience and creating those memories is super key. And now I want to dive into something I'm very passionate about. And I think this is something that you'll just explain very well, but Destinationaire mindset. And I created this kind of like idea of, Destinationaire, like people that are wired to create experiences that are anticipated and shared. And so I think Loma Homes as a whole is like the definition of that for the vacation rental, just side of things, because you guys have taken that idea, that mindset of attention to detail, which is 100% what you said, right? Like if you don't have an attention to detail, you're not going to do well in that space, because it's all about creating that experience. And so I know I'm getting a little excited here, but so how's this type of mindset, do you feel like this plays into the significant role of success in the industry, versus, like, again, we go back to your basic house that people just rent out, throw on Airbnb and VRBO or whatever, versus like this whole type of guest experience, storytelling, and unique, I guess, memory creation?
Yeah, I mean, our whole business plan and model is based around creating experiences. In fact, our slogan is "Don't stay, experience."
Mm.
So, um, we are all about creating a all-inclusive memory building experience that guests will get to take with them. So, of course, it's the design of the house, but we also shoot for really quick, great customer service and responses. Like, we do a lot of interactive things on our Instagram and social media, like across the board from start to finish. We want all of our guests to feel like they are well taken care of and having a luxurious, fun experience whenever they encounter Loma Homes.
Mhm.
So we do have, of course, these extreme vacation rentals, which our goal is to make surprises around every corner. When you turn a light switch on, it ends up turning on sound or black lights instead of what you thought would be a normal light.
Yeah.
Or you press a button and all of a sudden you've got fog coming out of like your bed or whatever it is. Like our goal is to surprise and just wow our guests. So that way it's just a awesome, fun experience that they may go to the theme parks during the day, but they come home and it continues their adventure. They can tag in a couple more days and they don't even have to leave the house. They can create those memories in our homes. And we try to think through, like, through their eyes when we're building it, what things would they love or what things would their children want to play with over and over. So of course that's built into our model, but also in our other homes that are more normal, like our beach house, it's still everything we build is renovated, it's nice, and it's an ultimate experience. Like we have gift baskets for everybody who stays, and they've got like local gifts, or if you're at Harry Potter you get plastic wands. If you're at Star Wars you get coloring books that are Star Wars characters.
Mhm.
Everything is supposed to be customized and high end regardless of what city and what market it is. It's just specialized for that market. And that's our business plan A, to create that guest experience, but B, the whole reason that started was because when we were looking into markets, we noticed if you look at the top performing properties in whatever market it is, they have something that stands out and they provide an experience, not just a house to stay in.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So now, kind of getting to the final, I think, wrap up of the episode, with COVID-19 and everything affecting, Disney World shut down for a little bit. I've heard that they've opened up. How have you guys managed during these times, with these such unique experiences that these properties offer? I'm curious to hear about the overall, just like last few months of what's been going on. Obviously you guys have been busy, which is good. You're getting things up and running, but I'm just curious to hear, obviously the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, it was rough. Like, of course, it's unplanned. No one has control over COVID-19, but
Yeah.
it still sucks nonetheless.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was a bummer because we had just 12 Parsecs opened in November, so about 7 months ago from now. And we had just ramped up the first few months for getting the marketing, getting our initial reviews, everything under our belt. And we finally ramped up where in April we had like doubled our revenue from what we were before. We were finally getting really profitable. We had our calendar booked out. Like we were super excited because we had like been working for this pinnacle to like take off.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden Corona hit and it tanked. We're hard to get to this point, and now we're basically having to start back over at almost ground zero and fill our calendar back up. There's no way to go back and get all the lost bookings because obviously the days are gone.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer, but I still have hope. Like we'll be able to rebound. It'll be okay. And I think we'll just have to put more marketing and time back into it. But it was a little rough.
With that being said, with the cancellations and stuff, I know you guys take direct bookings on your site. Is that something you guys are going to focus more on with the current future of running Loma Homes? Just because I know a lot of people especially us, like we have a luxury castle property, and a lot of guests were booked through like Airbnb, and obviously with the decision that they were going to offer full refund, it I think hit a lot of people in different ways. And so I'm just kind of curious, what's your guys' thoughts and I guess strategies moving forward on like more direct bookings?
Yeah, even pre-corona, it was a priority to get direct bookings because with direct bookings, you have less fees. You have like direct contact with, of course, your guests and everything. It just adds value to your business of your house as well as just cuts down on your costs. So it already was a priority. It does make it another level of like motivation to do that since now you don't have someone else controlling you in a situation like COVID. But at the same time, we will still always be on all of the platforms because we want to be out there for anybody to find. And the hard thing with Florida is that Florida literally had legal action that you could not rent. So even during the time that Corona was there, but you were allowed to rent your vacation rentals, it was okay because we just lowered our rates. And you had a lot of local people. If they're being quarantined, why not be quarantined in a cool house? Like their family vacation plans may have been done, but they can come to our house and have an experience where they're still isolated. So the bummer is that had there not been legal action, we could have still stayed afloat. We would have, of course, gotten a hit and it would have been less income, but it just straight up got outlawed for months, which cost us a ton of money. So I think unless there's extreme circumstances, the nice thing is that having a unique property provides a little bit more buffer and opportunity even during the hard times.
Correct. So now is the legal action stuff on the state lifted, or is it slowly being phased in? I've heard a lot of people like Nancy from Flarbo and a few other people on that like side of the country. Is that something that is now allowed to happen again?
Yeah, so it's opened up. There are some regulations, especially around your cleaning and whatnot, which is understandable. But it's open in both Destin and Orlando. So both of our properties are allowed to be booked, and we're starting to ramp up again, which has been awesome.
Good. Awesome. Well, I guess the last thing to do is any final thoughts, shout outs, or just overall like last words you'd like to say to the audience of Slick Talk.
I think the biggest like takeaway that I've learned is that you can't be intimidated by doing something. Like it's all one step at a time. I never had this dream or goal or went to school or anything to design vacation rentals or be where we are today. It's just, you just got to take one step, start with like doing the research on what city you want to go. And then once you figure out the city, you narrow it down. So that's the biggest thing. If you want to get into it, just start moving and taking action.
I love it. Start executing those ideas. Well, Bryndee, I'm super excited to have had you on the show. For all the listeners out there, of course, I will be tagging and listing every single way you can find more about Loma Homes, their website, their Facebook, their Instagram. I'll even throw Bryndee's, what do you guys call it, Our Flipping Family?
Yeah, so my husband and my Instagram is Our Flipping Family, and then at Loma Homes is our business, Loma Homes Instagram. We'd love to have you follow both. You can kind of see what we do across both platforms, and a lot of behind the scenes, of course, too.
Yeah, it's really cool. Super exciting. I love the pictures of, Wizard's Way and 12 Parsecs and all these other cool things that you guys are doing. So everybody that's listening, go ahead and check them out. And then, of course, we will find more coming out on the show next week. Thank you guys, and talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.